The train sliced through the darkness like a metal ghost, carrying millions of pounds across the sleeping British countryside in August of 1963. Inside the carriages, exhausted postal workers sorted stacks of money while the rest of the nation slept peacefully in their homes. Nobody on board realized that a carefully planned criminal operation was already waiting ahead of them in the fog. Britain in the early 1960s was moving fast, but its money still trusted the old railway lines. Banks and postal services depended on trains to carry huge amounts of cash between cities because the system felt organized, official, and safe. That trust would become the very weakness the robbers were waiting to exploit. For months, the gang studied the Glasgow to London Royal Mail train like soldiers studying an enemy fortress. They watched its routines, learned its route, and waited for a night when the money on board would be too tempting to ignore. To them, this was not just a robbery, it was a machine that had to work perfectly. The plan depended on one terrifying idea: stop the train before anyone on board understood what was happening. Instead of chasing it or attacking it in a station, they would use the railway signal system against itself. If the train obeyed the false warning, the robbers would control the entire night. Every roll had to be clear before the night arrived. Some men would control the track, others would handle the crew, and others would move the money as fast as humanly possible. In a crime this large, confusion was as dangerous as the police. The gang chose Leatherslade Farm as their hideout, a lonely countryside place where they believed they could vanish after the robbery. It looked quiet, remote, and forgettable, which made it perfect for men who needed time to breathe after stealing a fortune. But the place that felt like safety would later become one of their biggest mistakes. On the night of August 7th, the criminals moved into position while the rest of Britain slept. The air was cold, the roads were quiet, and every sound seemed louder than it should have been. Somewhere in the darkness, the Royal Mail train was coming. The train was not carrying gold bars or jewels, but something even better for criminals: used banknotes. Bags of cash sat inside the high-value package carriage as workers continued their routine, unaware that history was closing in on them. To the men waiting outside, those bags represented freedom, luxury, and escape. Then the signal changed. A red light appeared where the driver expected safety, forcing him to slow the train in the lonely darkness. At that moment, the entire robbery came alive. The train stopped near Bridego Bridge, and confusion immediately spread through the crew. The driver and staff tried to understand why the signal had failed them in such a strange place. Before they could find the answer, masked men stepped out of the night. The robbers moved quickly, shouting orders and forcing the shocked railway workers to obey. The night filled with boots on metal, flashlights cutting through fog, and voices that gave no room for argument. It was fast, controlled, and terrifying. The driver, Jack Mills, was attacked during the chaos, turning the robbery from clever planning into something much darker. The gang wanted money, but violence had now entered the story. From that moment, the crime could never be treated as harmless legend. The robbers separated the train and focused on the carriage carrying the money. Their plan was to move the valuable section to a better loading point where vehicles could reach it. But even the best plan can start shaking when real life refuses to move smoothly. One problem nearly ruined everything. The gang could not easily control the train after stopping it. Time started slipping away as frustration grew and nerves tightened. The robbers needed the real railway men more than they wanted to admit. Eventually, the money carriage was moved close enough for the gang to begin the transfer. Men formed a human chain, passing heavy sacks from the train to the waiting truck. In the darkness, millions of pounds moved hand by hand into criminal history. The sacks were heavy, and the clock was merciless. Every minute increased the chance that police would arrive, or that a passing witness would see something impossible to explain. The robbers kept moving because stopping was not an option. When the truck finally pulled away, the gang had stolen roughly £2.6 million. It was an astonishing amount of money for 1963, enough to shock the government, the police, and every ordinary person who read the morning papers. Britain was about to wake up to the crime of the century.